Hi guys, I'm Prince Jules NYC. I'm a 26-year-old young professional, skinny legend, and Real Housewives #1 fan. NYC to be specific. Thank you for watching. For this video, I'm gonna walk you through 10 money lessons that I've learned in my 20s. Obviously, I'm in my mid-20s, so I probably have lots of room to learn more, but here's what I'm thinking so far. I spent a lot of time putting together this list and doing a lot of research just to make sure my inclinations are matched by actual research out there. So don't forget to hit the like button, it'll help my channel, and if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you doing? Come on. Hit the subscribe button as well while you're at it, and keep on watching for my 10 steps. I have to preface all of this by saying I am not a financial advisor and this is for entertainment purposes only. Lesson number 1, talk about it. The first step to learning with anything is to engage and have a conversation. Whether that means talking to friends, your colleagues, your parents, your siblings, having a conversation really helps you break the ice around money and really understand what are the limitations to your own scope of knowledge and what are the opportunities you have to learn more. For example, I remember a few years ago when one of my friends, Robbie, while at dinner, just mentioned a Roth IRA and I had no idea what that was. You don't necessarily have to talk to other people in order to engage with it. Reading or consuming content like this will really help you. Recently, I read this book by Ramit Sethi. It's called I Will Teach You to Be Rich, and it covered a lot of basics and things that I know now, but for someone who's just beginning, I would highly recommend you check it out. I'd also recommend, obviously, you're here on YouTube. I've watched several YouTubers and engaged with their content, and they've really taught me a lot about the topic and made me much more well-versed at managing my own finances. Whether that's Graham Stephan, Our Rich Journey, Living Tiny with the Bushes. Those are 3 great channels with a lot of really helpful knowledge about money that I'd highly recommend you check out. Lesson number 2, you have to keep track of what's going on. Now, I'm not saying you have to check your bank accounts on a daily basis or even on a weekly basis, but I'm saying you have to be able to measure and keep track of what's coming in and what's going out. A few years ago, I had this bad habit of when I knew I was overspending, I would completely stop checking my bank account because it was inconvenient and made me feel guilty. I don't recommend this. What you measure gets managed, and in order to go through the steps I'm going to cover, you need to start with a foundation of understanding just the basics of at least what is going out and coming in. I don't do spreadsheets, I don't like to make things complicated, so I like to use apps for this purpose. There are a few apps that are really easy. You only need to, again, check in maybe once a month just to make sure you understand where your money is going and where your money is coming from. There are 3 apps that are pervasive in the finance community. I've used 2 of them. The first of which is Personal Capital. Personal Capital is my favorite, hands down, and I think it really changed my life in regards to the relationship with tracking my finances. Personal Capital is a net worth tracker, so you can see on a very high level what is coming in and what is going out. So you're able to see kind of a macro view of everything that's going on with your finances. I think it does a really great job of doing that. So basically how it works is you connect all your bank accounts and your credit cards and your loans, and it tracks over time. The second app is called Mint, and it's, again, very similar. You're able to see your net worth. It's a little bit more focused on monthly budgeting, so you can set specific budgets, whether it's for dining, for transportation, for fun, and track them accordingly moving forward. Both of these apps I highly recommend. You can't go wrong with either one you choose, and in fact I actually use both. So I'd recommend using both because they're free. The third app is a paid one. It's called YNAB, You Need a Budget. I've actually never used it, but I've seen lots of rave reviews, so if that's something that you're interested in, I highly recommend exploring it as well. Third recommendation is you need to do your due diligence with every institution you have a relationship with. From your bank account, to your credit card, to your loans, Really make sure you understand what you're getting yourself into. Be willing to make a switch if you find a better offer. Bank accounts are sticky, and people often stick with whatever bank account they were signed up for as children. Only 4% of consumers switched bank accounts in 2018, and I believe that number is way too low for the number of offers that are going on out there. You should not be paying fees for your bank account. If you're paying any fees, monthly, maintenance, whatever it is, get out now. There are so many offers and so many banks that are free with much better benefits, much higher interest rates, much better customer service. So I'd highly recommend you shop around. For example, I recently signed up for Ally Bank and I've really liked it so far. They have a much higher interest rate, although with all that's going on with the pandemic, who knows how long that will last. But at least I know for a fact that they're not going to charge me any maintenance fees. Once upon a time, I had a savings account with a bank that not only wasn't paying me barely any interest, they were actually charging me $5 a month because I didn't hit a certain threshold for what you need to have in the account because of Bank of America. I highly recommend you reassess all of your relationships with every financial institution to make sure what you're getting charged in fees is fair and the best offer available right now. Lesson number 4. Use the 80-20 rule to your advantage. The 80-20 rule, otherwise known as the Pareto rule, Pareto, I probably did not say that correctly, but oh well. The Pareto principle, otherwise known as the 80-20 rule, states that 80% of effects come from 20% of causes for many events. The way I've used this rule to my advantage is looking at what are the largest expenses that will always be there. And for most people, that's going to be your housing, your transportation, and your food. So if you can take control of just these 3 expenses, that will go a long way in helping you in your financial journey as well. Housing, having a roommate, living for free with your parents if you can. I live in New York, so my preferred mode is the subway, but for many years I have noticed I spent way too much money on Uber and Lyft. So that has been a huge drag on my finances, and one that, especially right now since I'm not going outside, I've been taking a much harder look at. And third is food, and same with the other 2. This can really get carried away, especially if you don't cook. I'm not the greatest cook, so I tend to also spend a lot of money on eating out. Over the past few years, I've tried to cut down on eating out and as much as possible conserve money and also be more healthy by making my own meals at home. Lesson number 5. Make sure to put together an emergency fund with 3 to 6 months of your expenses. So now if you've been following along and you're able to track your expenses and your income, you should know by now what your regular monthly expenses look like. So make sure you take that number, multiply by 3, and have at least that number in a high yield savings account. Lesson number 6, make your credit work for you, don't work for your credit. I actually love credit cards. I really do. They all help you build your credit. Sometimes they give you cash back, and sometimes they give you points that you can then use for travel. For tracking your credit score, I highly recommend looking into Credit Karma or Credit Sesame. Those are 2 free services that help you track your credit without hurting your score. Lesson number 7, hedge your risk using insurance. Health insurance is a very obvious one, so I wouldn't go into that one deeply, but look into other kinds. Rent insurance has been really helpful. One, because it's super cheap. I use Lemonade and pay probably around $10 a month. Renter's insurance is a way to cover all of your property just in case anything happens. My phone got stolen a year ago when I was traveling in Spain, and my renter's insurance actually reimbursed me for the full amount of the phone. Not to be confused with insuring the actual apartment, but it actually covers all of your property within the apartment. There are nuances to each specific insurance policy, but I found mine to be super helpful when I need it in case of emergency. Overall, some insurance can be a scam, but really think about your situation and your risk. Are you traveling a lot? Do you have a dog? Do you have other animals? Shit happens. If those are things you're concerned with, certainly think about insurance as a way to hedge that risk, in addition to having an emergency fund. Lesson number 8, optimize your taxes. One of the biggest lessons in my 20s is you'll pay a lot of taxes. And even right now, we're actually at historic lows in terms of our tax rates in the US. And taxes do go to important, crucial functions of society, such as building roads and funding schools. So, not hating on taxes by any means. I highly recommend you look into not just saving and spending less than you make, but putting those savings and optimizing them using tax-advantaged accounts. For example, HSAs are a top one I'd recommend you look into, health savings accounts. They're an investment vehicle where you can contribute pre-tax money and use that money actually pre-tax for qualified medical expenses. Next, look into 401ks. Now, there are traditional 401ks where you contribute pre-tax money, allow that money to grow, and then you defer the tax payment to when you retire. I almost said graduate. When you graduate from life. There are also Roth 401ks where you contribute post-tax money, and the contributions and earnings can grow tax-free, and you can withdraw them without any further taxes after you retire. Fourth are Roth IRAs, which are a different type of Roth investment. Again, it's post-tax, so you contribute post-tax money. There's an income limit and there's also a contribution limit. You can contribute much less money into a Roth IRA, but same thing. You contribute and it grows tax-free. And when you retire, you can withdraw the contributions and the earnings without paying any further taxes on them. 401ks are especially crucial to look into because often employers will have a match on whatever you invest. So whatever you do, if you learn anything from this video, make sure you take advantage of the entire match. That is free money. You should never say no to free money. And if all of this sounds complicated about taxes, it's because it is. So you'll certainly need to do a little bit more reading and make sure you understand fully what you're getting yourself into and all of the tax-advantaged accounts that exist. Lesson number 9. Keep things simple. In terms of your finances, complex doesn't always equal greater outcomes. Keeping things simple really will help you develop the discipline to stay the course and really just invest and grow over time. I start with automating my bills. From credit card bills to any other bills you're paying on a recurring basis, I always recommend setting them to automatic payments. 1, so you don't forget, and 2, just to take out the complexity. Who wants to spend every single month going through bills line by line and making sure boxes are checked? Certainly not me. Next, you should make sure to automate your savings. This will prevent you from slacking off and spending that money instead of putting it into growth mode. And then you have to automate your investing. I don't recommend picking individual stocks because most people can do it, or at least do it in a long-term sustainable way and actually make money. 92% of fund managers cannot beat the market, 92%. And these are people who have the resources to do research and analysis. Most of them are not beating the market. So if you think you can, good luck, but highly recommend you automate using a low-cost index fund that tracks maybe the S&P 500 or the entire stock market. Several funds at Fidelity or at Vanguard that do this in a very low-cost way. Lesson number 10 I've learned is know what you want. If you don't know what you want, someone else will decide for you. I highly recommend thinking long-term. What are your goals? What are your dreams? And what do you hope to achieve in your lifetime? And work backwards to let that dictate what decisions you make today. Do you want to, for example, retire early? Or do you want to just at least have the option to retire early? Or do you love your role and want to keep working through your 60s and 70s? Do you want children? Do you not want children? Do you want to travel? Do you not want to travel? All of those aspects will help you decide the decisions that you need to make now to make sure you have a long-term, the best chances of succeeding at meeting those goals. Decide now what it is that you may want long-term. Obviously, be flexible and know that those things will change, but at least have somewhat of a perspective of things that are important to you right at this moment. So, with all of these 10 lessons, you certainly know a lot more about finance than most people do. Continue to read more And definitely hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can catch my future content as well. All right, guys, I'll see you at the next one. Bye.